My throat is really dry because I took some edibles and more than I usually take. So I put a lifesaver in my mouth. This is not an endorsed video. I put a lightsaber. Yeah, I put a lightsaber in my mouth. I put a lifesaver in my mouth. That's so loud. I'm gonna get a copyright strike. No edits. Like, is it too stuff in my mouth? ASMR. Do you know what I mean? Like the sound of the lifesaver. We're gonna read this. We're gonna read this piece of shit. So they go to Kosovo to go to a bridal store. And I'm gonna be honest, I know just about as much about Albania as E.L. James does. Which is to say, just like none. And all I know about Kosovo is like some bad shit went down there when I was like younger. It would be on the news. Okay, so here's how this chapter is, right? She's laying in bed and she's remembering that they went to Kosovo. It's like summed up. Like this whole thing is like, she directs her thoughts back to their trip. It had been a success. They'd been lucky to find a beautiful dress, and she'd discovered a softer side to Maxim's gruff friend. He'd been courteous, kind, and vigilant while with them. He'd also given his begrudging approval of her dress as he'd sat quietly and discreetly near the door of the bridal store. And then there's like a little thing where like, I mean, like it's all just like everything that happens is happening as she remembers it. Like, we're seeing her memories. Why not just write this part? Like, why not just, like put that part in the book? I can't believe I'm saying that either, because that would mean there would be more words on a page from E.L. James. And that is unacceptable. And, like, this stuff actually, you know, when you read the synopsis for, like, the first book and for, like, this one, it's all about, like, how thrilling it is, and there's like all this promised action and, you know, incredible, you know, sweeping saga, okay? But then you get things like this. On the drive to Kosovo, Tom had told her about the security company he owned, where he could put the skills he'd learned in the British Army to good use. He'd been delighted to have a captive and attentive audience. Alessia had been fascinated, asking questions about his work, and grateful that he was with them, as Maxim had been hypervigilant since Anatoly's untimely reappearance. That would be an incredibly tense and interesting scene. To see that conversation taking place. That would give the reader a sense that there is like some danger, or there's some reason for us to be invested in this. Okay, that there has to be a reason that we want to continue being curious about their story. And this could have given us that little like, oh, I want to keep reading to see what happens. Okay, she even says, while out in the streets of Prizren, she'd found herself glancing over her shoulder several times, a sense of unease settling in her stomach. Was she being watched? No, it was just her imagination. Well, we have no feeling of tension or danger here at all, because she's remembering that she felt this way, but now she's at home in bed, so we know that everything turned out okay. So there's really no feeling of tension at all, or rising action. On the other hand, I don't want to see more pages in an E.L. James novel. And the same treatment is given to us learning that Alessia's dad and Maxim and Tom cleaned the garage. There's a whole paragraph there's 2 paragraphs about cleaning the garage. And so I feel like if E.L. James took this advice, we would get the chapter about cleaning out the garage and not the chapter about potentially being watched. The thing that's really weird is that if you compare how the action sequences went down in the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, these are nowhere near, like, nothing in these books is anywhere near that level. Like, those look like freaking Stephen King compared to what's happening here. Oh, also, Alessia gets her period, so I'm glad we know that. And she started taking birth control. So then she starts remembering how he walked into the house all dirty and his shirt sleeves are rolled up and his hair is sweaty. And she thinks manual work suits him. And then she starts thinking about when they were in Cornwall, washing each other in the shower. And then we gotta read about her, like, masturbating. It's about as erotic as you would expect an E.L. James sex scene to be. Except there's really nothing ridiculous enough to make fun of it. It's just kind of what it always is. You know, we have to hear about cotton. We have to hear about, you know, faster. Like, it's nothing. It's just nothing. It's just like in the first book when she, like, gets off fantasizing about him. Copy paste. Oh, after that part where, you know, she masturbates, we immediately go into thinking about the garage and how they still need to keep cleaning it up. I'm not kidding. I know. Like, I feel like if you have read my 50 Shades of Grey recaps, you are 100% aware that this is possible. You are 100% aware that I am not making this shit up. But just so there's some proof. Tomorrow the garage setup will be finished, but there's more cleaning and cooking to be done. And then she talks about, like, making party favors and stuff. There's, like, this, it's like this is what I did all day. Now I'm gonna masturbate. Now I'm gonna think about what I have to do tomorrow. Did she schedule that? I don't understand. And then she thinks about, like, oh, you know, her mom and dad's marriage is actually a lot better. Like, glad we solved that. You know, glad we put that to rest, that the abusive relationship is just fine now. Like, cool. Glad we came to that accord. And of course she thinks that, you know, oh, because she's not a boy, she disappointed her father, and that's why he's glad that she's getting married, because it'll get rid of her and blah, blah, blah. So she's, oh God. With all of the, like, I don't even know how to begin with this. I don't. Okay. I'm on so much edibles right now. And I need to, like, this is, like, I can't believe that this is happening, okay? I'm not trying to build suspense. I, like, literally can't. We know that Maxim often refers to her as a girl. And some of the things that he likes about her are, like, infantilized things. And if that's your fetish, you gotta PayPal me, like, $40. He constantly refers to Alessia as, like, being attractive because she's doing something like sort of like infantilized, like he gets to correct her English, you know, and she, you know, he refers to her as little, and he calls her his girl, and there's a lot of very, you know, very, very infantilized stuff about her. She's an E.L. James heroine. It's just how they roll. But now she is taking her nightlight and sneaking down the hall to get in bed with him. Okay. It's gross, okay? It's gross. I don't understand the popularity of books that infantilize grown women so that men can have this barely legal fantasy of them. I don't understand. Like, it is, like, this whole thing is so, like, male gaze that it's like, I can believe that internalized misogyny could drive a woman to write like this, but like, I just can't believe that it got to this point and no editor went, hey, you might want to rethink this whole thing about, you know, your hero calling the heroine girl all the time and just always describing her as a girl, and then now she's like tiptoeing in her nightgown, you know, because she's upset to get in his bed. That's weird. It's weird. So let me go into Maxim's POV. Let me see if I can do that accent. I cannot sleep, and yet I don't think I've ever labored as hard as I did today. Yeah, because you're like a fucking rich asshole. You're a DJ and photographer. No, but he's not just any DJ and photographer. Okay? Well, not since my father had us helping with the harvest at the home farm on Trevithick Estate. You didn't ever do... You have never even picked a fucking daisy, my fellow. You never have, old chap. Do you remember why he's in Albania? Because E.L. James doesn't remember why he's in Albania. Tomorrow morning, I'm going for a run before I do anything else, and I'm grateful I packed my running gear. Do you remember why he's in Albania? The woman that he loved was kidnapped by Albanian human traffickers. He stopped and packed his running gear. Oh no! Oh god. I don't know why I said, oh god, because like the existence of this woman's writing career is just proof that the universe is like a cold and empty void in which there is no justice. Like, her dad is like warming up to Maxim because Maxim is like, you know, he gave me the keys to like this Mercedes S-Class that's just ancient and sitting there. Sorry, Mercedes C-Class. And it's just like ancient and sitting there. And he's being nice to him. And then then Maxim's like, you know, thinking about like how if his mother knew that he was getting married in a garage. Because Alessia has been human trafficked from Albania to London, and then ran from London to Cornwall, and then got human trafficked from London again, right? Back to Albania. Maxim thinks that what they need is a vacation, just travel somewhere. This is a science experiment. This is like MK Ultra. He's like, oh, we can't go to the Caribbean because, you know, I went to Cuba with my brother and his wife and the memories and the sadness. And then he says, like, it seems like yesterday. It was only 8 weeks ago. Literally. His brother dying. This is his... That seems like yesterday. It was only 8 weeks ago. Hell, so much has happened since then. Like, I'm sorry, but so much has happened that you forgot how long ago your brother died and it's been 8 weeks? I'm sorry, I don't mean to like gatekeep grief or anything like that, but you fucking your cleaning lady and then taking your running shoes to Albania is somehow made you feel like it's been a long time since your brother died? 8 weeks? So, good news. We hear more about the visa situation and how the UK visa situation works for Alessia. And he went to like a lawyer because they have, you know, he had to talk to an immigration lawyer when they get back to London. And you know how interesting this sounds? That's how interesting it sounds in here. Because again, we're hearing all about this stuff from Maxim laying in his room in bed. Just so this can happen. The door creaks open, startling me, and Alessia creeps inside, wearing her ridiculous nightgown and carrying the little nightlight. My heart rate jumps. She's here. My girl. I can't even say anything about it. I mean, like, partially because I'm violently high, and partially because, it's just... It's right there on the page and nobody said, do you know what this sounds like? So she comes in and she tiptoes like all, you know, timidly. And it's like, you know, I couldn't sleep. And he's like, oh, me too, but you can sleep now. And he thinks like, you know, they're going to be together forever. And then he falls asleep. And we go into a POV switch where Alessia is closing her eyes. And then she falls asleep. That's the whole beginning part of this chapter. It probably should have been its own chapter, but unfortunately, we go on to the next section. So Maxim's friend Joe is on the way and said that he had a surprise. So let's find out what the fucking surprise is. It's probably like, I brought Caroline, and then there's gonna be like all of this, oh, you know, why don't you want me, Maxim? I'm wearing a cozy sweater and looking very tragic, like a widow. Oversized cream cable knit sweater, looking very cozy in some leggings. Sitting perhaps on one of those big wicker chairs with a cushion in it and my legs pulled up but not really resting on anything because it's all for effect. I'm not reading out of the book, by the way, I'm just talking to myself. So they do up the garage, fucking My Big Fat Greek Wedding style, with like Christmas lights, well, you know, fairy lights, Christmas lights as normal people call them. There's a DJ. The DJ, Kreshnik, one of Alessia's cousins, has set up a little booth in the corner of the garage. His gear is old school, a laptop and humble Newmark Mixtrack Pro DJ decks. I haven't seen one of those for years. He's plugged them into a couple of speakers and the sound is surprisingly warm and crisp. Like, did we really have to hear this fucking, like, billionaire guy who's, like, this rich fucking asshole? I mean, like, again, I know I write billionaire stuff, but I am on my last gasp of that. I can't go any further. But we had to hear this rich guy who's, like, a fucking count be like, well, you know, this stuff is pretty old, but I guess the sound is decent. Like, why didn't you just DJ your own wedding, Maxim? It's something a douche would do. Because there are only so many, like, tiles to pull out of the magic bag. Maxim comes into the house, and there is Alessia, and she's wearing a ponytail, and cooking, and swaying her hips to the music. And he thinks of her as looking like a domestic goddess. which is hilarious because that was a phrase coined by Roseanne Barr in her stand-up days. So I'm just gonna assume. I'm sure E.L. James is a big fan. Oh, there's some good old-fashioned fat phobia here. Shpressa is also jiggling about in time to the music and needs a large mound of dough. Man, she has such energy. It's like you can see that she's like jiggling around and kneading dough. Like you can just tell that you're supposed to be seeing like this big fat 14th century peasant woman pounding a loaf of bread. It's like she's really super like she's very descriptive but in the wrong way. Alessia does like a little sexy dance while she's stirring the pot. And they have her passport. Don't worry. Her passport arrived. I was right! So Tom gets there and it says, he turns and behind him, standing by the car, is my sister, Marianne. Shit. Behind her, wearing an expression that may turn me to stone, is my brother's widow, Caroline. Fuck a duck. Fuck a duck is the chapter hook. Okay. Caroline knows that you are in love with this lady. You went away. I will not accept any shred, any tiny little chunk of conflict to be about what Caroline feels about the marriage. I rebuke it. I rebuke it in the name of the Lord. We are not doing that. We are not. I am exhausted. It feels like it took a really long time to read that book. But my camera only says 32 minutes. But when you're reading it feels like forever. You know that like time flies when you're having fun? It's like time grinds to a fucking halt when you're reading an E.L. James book because you just guarantee you are not having fun. Oh, I have to say this. You have to like, subscribe, push the notification button, put comments. I do read your comments. I'm just crazy busy right now. I'm crazy busy all the time. I overextend myself. I read your comments. I don't reply because I overextend myself. No, but really, I do like the comments. I do like seeing what you guys think. And, yeah, I'm sorry I'm doing this to us. I hope you'll forgive me someday.